And one day, in June 1st and 2nd, 1941, the Arab nationalists of Iraq, who are not Arab, by the way, they live under a facade that they are Arab, but they rose up and decided to ethnically cleanse the Jews from their land. They killed 181 Jews in one single night with swords, beheading most of them in their homes. My grandparents lived through this. They luckily survived. And they stole, burned down the houses, raped, pillaged about another 1,800 Jews in Baghdad. ليش حبيبي ليش why aggressive all of a sudden?
It's always aggressive.
Why you start with aggression all of a sudden? I don't understand.
What's that above the fucking? What's that green book?
The Quran.
Why do you have an Israeli flag?
Because I live in Israel.
Why do you have a Quran?
Because I read it.
Why do you have a kafiyah?
Because I'm Iraqi. I
You
also
live
have.
in Israel?
Yeah, I live in Israel. Where do you live?
In-
Where are you from?
Iraqi?
أنا يهودي إراقي. وأنت من وين؟ من
From
مصر؟
the States. No, I'm Sudanese.
You're Sudanese?
Yeah.
I've never seen a Sudanese that looks like you before.
There's a few of them.
Are you mixed Sudanese with something else, or are you like Arab Sudanese?
Both of my parents are Sudanese, but
Wow.
lineage-wise, I'm like...
I didn't know you guys come light skinned like that.
Nah, there's a few of us.
Wow, interesting. You look very like North African, like Egyptian, I thought.
Yeah, I'm aware that there's like Iraqi Jews
Mm-hmm.
due to history and migration and stuff like that. Just like how there's like Yemen.
Well, it's not really migration; it's ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, that I misspoke. So you live in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you face discrimination as an Iraqi Jew?
Absolutely not. I would say that Mizrahi Jews like me were the dominant culture here. We discriminate now.
Really?
I think that during the establishment of the state of Israel, there's definitely a case to be made, like during 48 to like the 60s, where brown Jews, let's say, or Jews that came from Arab countries, where I wouldn't call it discrimination. I would just call it there was a really big push to try to make this country as European as possible. But once a lot of us Arab Jews or Arabized Jews came here, we instantly became the cool culture, the food culture, the music culture, the language, the lingo. And now we're 100% the dominant culture where, and I'm not saying this in a way like it's a joke within Israeli society, but we make fun of like the Ashkenazi Jews for not having good food or good culture. Like we're the celebrated culture. We're the dominated culture of the country. So absolutely not. I don't feel like I'm discriminated against at all. I feel like I do the discrimination sometimes, which is a weird, yeah.
Is there a large Iraqi community?
Massive, yeah, dude. 1 million of us were ethnically cleansed from the Middle East. So Iraq was 150,000 Jews. So all their descendants now, it's millions of kids who are just like me. Over 70% of Israel is made up of brown Arab Jews, what you would consider Arab Jews. We don't consider ourselves Arabs, but we're Jews that came from the Arab world. But Jews from Yemen, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Urdun, even Khaliji Jews, very rare, some Bahrainis. And
so you being in Israel, I don't want to assume that you support what your government is doing in Palestine.
I do, yeah, of course I do.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's your outlook on
October 7th, when they killed people on October 7th, did they ask if they were an Iraqi Jew or a Jew from Europe or a Jew from Ethiopia? No, they just murdered them. If they even murdered Arabs. They're still holding an Arab hostage now. Hamas is holding a man named Muhammad hostage. They held a man named Sayyid al-Hashim for 10 years, an autistic Arab from the south of Israel, a Palestinian. They held him hostage for 10 years. So the people that we're fighting against, they don't care my color skin, they don't care my religion, they don't care where my family came from. They don't care that my DNA test says I'm 100% from Palestine or from this land, whatever you want to call it. They don't discriminate. So I'm 100% in support of my government cleansing this land of Hamas and its ideology and creating a peaceful, or at least a peaceful reality for us where we don't have to deal with another infiltration by them.
So you think the way that they're going about it is the most efficient way to go about it in your
Well, I think
opinion?
efficiency is kind of a gross way to look at it because this is a war, and you don't think about a war in terms of efficiency. You look at it in terms of morality. If you want to make a case that Israel is not being moral, I would love to hear from you. I challenge this question to many people I speak to, and I hope you won't leave the conversation, but I fear that you will once you get stumped. I would like to hear an alternative from your perspective on how to safeguard my rights as somebody who didn't serve in the IDF, my family who didn't serve in the IDF, who came here as refugees from the Middle East, ethnically cleansed by Muslims. Please tell me how I can protect myself living here. And mind you, I can't go back to Iraq. We're not allowed. We were banned from that country for being Jews. So what's the alternative? I would love to hear from you.
Alternative, as in,
To what's currently going on.
so there's obviously talks of a two-state solution.
Can't happen.
Like, all that stuff looks good on paper, but
Yeah.
in the real world, it's kind of hard to apply it. And honestly, the way that the countries are going about it now, it feels like even if a ceasefire was to be agreed upon, there's been so many different hypotheticals about where the next step could take, or where that next step would, direct the two countries and what that path would look like. I mean, they say prior to the Nakba of 1948, the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians lived peacefully amongst each other.
They absolutely did not.
And they had done that for hundreds of years.
They did not.
supposedly.
That's the Arab Muslim narrative that objects the reality of everybody else. But again, as somebody whose family was ethnically cleansed in 1941, before Zionism, before any Iraqi Jews were Zionists, I'm a living testament of the fact that that talking point is bullshit. And also, in Palestine, if you don't even want to go to Iraq, I mean, the wider Muslim world was abusing Jewish people for 1,000 years. But even in Palestine, in the British Mandate of Palestine, the Ottoman-controlled region of Palestine, they were murdering Jews consistently for 1,000 years. Massacre after massacre after massacre.
What other countries were discriminating against Jews? Because in where I'm from, Sudan specifically, not that there's a large population of Jews, but we don't really discriminate against like other religions, especially Abrahamic, all that much. Like in Durman, where my family's from, there's a Christian church right behind my grandfather's house. That's an orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
I know of Ethiopian Jews that live in Khartoum and Durman. We hear these stories. I mean, I personally have. I'm not one to have interacted with people that have felt that side of the hatred and discrimination where they've feared for their life. But I try to stay educated on both sides.
You know, by the way, why you haven't interacted with them? It's because
I'm from West Hartford. I grew up. I went to maybe 20 plus bat mitzvahs. I'm one of the most heavily.
I'm saying, do you know why you haven't interacted with Jews from the Middle East and Africa that were discriminated against? Is because they all mostly live in Israel now. Most of them. That's why you haven't interacted with them. You haven't interacted with them because, well, you maybe, I don't know if you visited Israel. I'm assuming you've never visited Israel, but you're probably not talking to them on this website or asking about what their families went through. But all of them, majority, live in Israel. All the ones that were dispersed in them, that's why you haven't interacted with them. And as for the situation in East Africa, in Ethiopia, they were discriminated by Muslims and Christians, and they actually were given the label Falashmura, which literally means the other or the invader. That was the name of the Ethiopian Jewish community bestowed upon by the Muslims and Christians to discriminate against them. In Sudan, the thing is, Sudan's a new country. Sudan's not a country that existed in the context of Sudan the way that it is today. So these nation states that we live in today, these were territories where people passed through. Muslims in Sudan, once Muslims took power in Sudan, definitely discriminated against the Jews who lived in that area. But I don't believe that there were many ethnically Sudanese Jewish groups. Most of them were Habeshas or Tigray Jews from Ethiopia who had wandered into that area. Some Jews from Egypt, and then many Jews that I know are from Yemen, migrated into Sudan. They lived in Eritrea. They mixed with the local population, and they were 100% discriminated against by all Muslim overlords in that area. I will give you the point that in East Africa, the discrimination was the lightest of the discriminations between the Arab world and in Europe. The lightest. Besides South Asia, which there was basically no discrimination, like in India. It just never happened. But East Africa was one of the lightest discriminations against the Jewish people. As compared to the Arab world in Europe, oh my God, it was horrible. I mean, it was like full-on oppression and second-class citizenship.
So, I kind of want to understand what the oppression looked like. So, I guess try to paint the picture, give me a few examples.
Sure.
Because Islamically, it's said to treat people of the Abrahamic faith.
Yeah, it didn't work out that way. It didn't work out that way. It still doesn't work out this way today. Yeah, by the way, like in the Islamic world, in the Arab world today, Arabs are currently oppressing every single ethnic minority in the Middle East. Between the Yazidis to the Kurds to the Mandeans to the Coptic people, the Assyrians, the Amazigh people, everybody is being oppressed under the hand of the Islamic Arab supremacy. And the Jews are actually the only ones who are able to pull enough power together, stick together, and create our own nation state to say, fuck you, you can't oppress us anymore. If you want to live with us, you can, but we won't allow you to put your gun to our neck anymore. The oppression looked like this. In June 1st and 2nd, 1941, this is what happened to my grandparents. There was an event called the Farhud. This was inspired by a Palestinian named Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who came and spoke to Hitler, who then disseminated books like Mein Kampf from the Hitler Youth Group to Iraqi society and to the Arab world, to the point where Mein Kampf became a best-selling book in Baghdad and Iraq. And one day, in June 1st and 2nd, 1941, the Arab nationalists of Iraq, who are not Arab, by the way, they live under a facade that they are Arab, but they rose up and decided to ethnically cleanse the Jews from their land. They killed 181 Jews in one single night with swords, beheading most of them in their homes. My grandparents lived through this. They luckily survived. And they stole, burned down the houses, raped, pillaged about another 1,800 Jews in Baghdad. There was only about 50,000 Jews in Baghdad at the time, or 60,000. So imagine in one night something like that happens to like 2% of the population. Everybody feels it the next morning, because that's a small community. Everybody knows somebody who was affected. So that reverberated in that community. In Yemen, for example, between the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s, Jewish people were forced to wear yellow bands. Sound familiar? To demarcate that they were Jewish. They weren't allowed to wear shoes when walking in the Muslim quarter. For example, if they were riding some sort of equestrian animal, they were not allowed to ride horses so that they would not be seated higher than a Muslim. They had to only ride donkeys. They weren't, or a mule. They were not allowed to ride a horse, so they would not be seated higher than a Muslim. So these are the kinds of things, like Jewish orphans were usually round up in Yemen and in Turkey and in Iraq and forced converted to Islam because they were not allowed to be Jewish in that society. And of course, there's a demeaning jizya or dhimmi status that we received in all the Arab world, which is you are seen as a second-class citizen, just like Christians or Armenians, whoever else. You're not a Muslim, pay us a tax so we protect your life. But, if you fuck up with us and we decide that your life is not worth protecting anymore, we'll massacre you. And let's just ignore the fact that our religion is new on the block. Jewish people had been living in Iraq for the better part of 3,000 years. They didn't go there by desire. They were taken there by force. But Muslims came in and Arabs came in about 2,000 years after the Jews were there, and then instilled this whole concept of jizya and dhimmi status. You are a dhimmi now to this new colonizing force, and you must pay me a tax even though I came in after you. And I'll add one more point that is really important for me to relay to you. You visually look Arab. I'm not 100% sure. You definitely look like you have African mixed in you as well. But I would say that the reality that we live in the Middle East, that I don't know, I'm assuming you consider yourself an Arab, right?
I say I'm black and Arab.
Black and Arab. It's like, I mean, I think like there's a better nuance, but I think that most of the Arab world lives in this false reality where we're all Arabs. When in reality, the Arab world is really made up of one small group of people between the Khalij to the Hijaz. You know, the people of the Gulf states that are the real Arabs and know their history. The rest of us were just colonized by the Arabs and were Arabized and Islamized. And when you look at Arab society, somebody from Morocco is not considered a real Muslim or a real Muslim by somebody in Egypt. And somebody in Palestine looks at the Egyptian and says, hey, that's not a real Arab because they're Egyptian. And somebody in Jordan looks at the Palestinian and says, hey, that's not a real Palestinian, or that's not a real Arab because he's Palestinian. The inter-racism that exists, and Lebanese, I mean, we know the going joke about Lebanese. They're never considered Arabs, even though they are Arabs, but they're not really. So as a Jew, when you want me to look at this world and get inspired by the Arab world, I look at it and I see nothing but lies. I'm like, you guys are not cohesive. You don't work together. You kill each other in the millions every year. I'm like, before we start pointing at Palestine, it's important for me to tell you as a Sudanese person, where are you standing up for Sudan? 2 million people have been killed in Sudan recently. And there's not nobody's doing lip service to Sudan. And it's happening today. People in Sudan are going to die way more than anybody in Gaza today. And we're not talking about Sudan.
Well, there was an ongoing famine that had affected, I think, upwards of like 3.5 to 4 million people in Sudan. But I actually have family that stayed back in Sudan. And getting updates on what's going on currently, not just like what had happened in the war in the coming years in the past, but also the stuff that had been going on in Darfur and all that. But like there wasn't much on the forefront to provide or to deliver to those countries, even from other like Arab countries and parts of Africa. In all honesty, what you do have in Palestine is, people awaiting aid, and there's a new study that there was opiates found in like the flour that was going to the people in Palestine and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you would see.
That's the first time I've heard of that.
There was a BBC article on it that had dropped. Some British news media had published that about 85% of the people in Gaza right now are reaching a famine status. So, I mean, when you hear about all these things on the forefront, where there are stories circulating amongst media where you have these countries willing to lend a helping hand. I mean,
who's willing to help about? Who's willing to help?
So, for example, I saw this yesterday. I'm not sure exactly what country it was. I think it was Thailand, or some Southeast Asia country. But the president had gone to a UN type meeting where it was a bunch of other prime ministers or presidents from other countries, and he urged that they agree to a ceasefire. He urged President Trump to use his voice and his power to stop what's going on now, so that they can offer aid into Gaza and things of that nature, and overall just helping the country, not seeing lifeless bodies, and people becoming.
Let me ask you this question. I'm going to put it in a context for you that'll make it really, really easy to understand. How many people do you think have died in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict since its inception, since 1948? Last 77 years. Just based on everything you've seen in the news and the media, all the information you're saying is available to you all the day in the forefront. How many people do you think have been killed? Both sides, yeah? Israelis and Palestinians together.
Oh, both sides?
Yeah, like the whole conflict. How many people?
I couldn't tell you because I don't
ballpark it.
Uneducated.
I'm not judging you. You can ballpark it. You seem like a very sweet guy. Like you seem like a smart dude. Ballpark it. Just based on how you feel of how much the media pushes it and how much people talk about it all the time. It's got to be really high, no?
Well, I couldn't even utter the thought of it because I just have no.
Do you think it might be in the millions?
I know that there's a guesstimate in what's happened in the past 2 years. There's around 377,000
killed,
assumed deaths on the Palestinian side.
I haven't heard that number yet.
Harvard actually came out with a study because the amount of people that have died, including the ones that are also missing, are assumed to be dead clearly. I think upwards of about 277,000 in this new article that dropped actually about a month ago. I'll try to find it for you.
Okay, I'll quote the numbers for you real quick because I do have to go in a little bit, but I want to educate you before I leave. So in the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict, throughout the entire thing, it's about 170,000 people that have been killed on both sides together. So it's about 155,000 Palestinians that have been killed since 1948. This is pre-October 7th, okay, before October 7th. It's about 155,000 Palestinians, about 20,000 plus Israelis that have been killed since 1948. Since October 7th, the highest estimates by Palestinians, I've never heard the number you're quoting, is 60,000 individuals that have been killed. But that 60,000 individuals killed, this comes from the Gaza Health Ministry, which is Hamas. They quote they don't make any differentiation between a Hamas fighter, a child, a woman, to the point that Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, was found on the dossier or on the list of women and children killed. Now, so rough estimate, you're not going to take a guess because you're a gentleman and I get that. If you had to ballpark it, how many people do you think have died in Sudan, just women and children, of starvation up until today? That's still happening today. Just ballpark it.
From the beginning.
Just from famine since the Sudanese genocide began.
For like the one in Kurdistan in
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
2000s.
Yeah. That's continuing on till today.
It's in the hundreds of thousands.
It's 500,000. And it's happening today still. It's 500,000 Sudanese women and kids have been killed, and they're still dying today from starvation. There's no protests in any capital city. So I just will leave you with this.
It's not that.
One second. I need to leave you with this because as a Jew, I want to look to you as my Muslim brother, as my Arab brother, and I want to be inspired by you. That's why when you saw Quran, I have massive respect for Muslims. I have massive respect for Arabs. I expect more from them, but I have respect. I have a lot of respect. How can I, as a Jew, look at you seriously, take you seriously, your condemnation for what happens in Israel, when in your conflict, 2 million people have died and are still dying, 500,000 alone of starvation, and you're telling me to look anywhere else but there? Look at Palestine. It's not even a percentage split of what's going on anywhere else in the Arab world. Not in Somalia, not in Sudan, not in Lebanon, not in Syria, not in Yemen, and I could go on and on. Congo, Ethiopia. It's millions of Muslims and Arabs killing each other every year. How in the world can I take you guys seriously when you tell me look at Palestine?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, I understand your perspective on this, but personally, being here in the States, I've seen a few protests here at the Capitol,
Brother,
Hartford. I've seen protests in Washington.
It's
DC.
nowhere near where it should be, and we both know that Sudan is being completely ignored.
Where it should be ethically and morally. But there's still people being outspoken about this. I mean, you have Macklemore denying our constitutional Dubai.
Not enough.
Funding. Clear. I mean, in any human rights and
and I will say, it's your job. It's your job as a Sudanese person. When I matched with you, and I really believe in this. You saw the kafia and the Israeli flag. The first thing you should have told me was, instead about Palestine, you should have been like, "Do you know what's happening in my country? You need to be an advocate for what's going on in your nation, brother." It's disgusting that I spoke to 30-minute conversation with a Sudanese guy the other day on here, who told me, forget what's happening in Sudan. Think about he told me in these words, forget what's happening in Sudan. It's been going on for a long time. Look at Palestine. I was baffled. I didn't know what to make of this. I was like, that's the problem right there.
I mean, you have to understand his perspective. I mean, the simple fact that you stated that 150,000 Palestinian and Jews had died in the 77 years that this ongoing conflict has occurred, that number has also been doubled, or has been met within the past 2 years of what's going on.
It hasn't.
I mean, I'll try to find the article. It's a Harvard one.
Let's try to link up. You're on this website often, I'm assuming?
Kinda, not really.
We'll try to match up again in the future. This was a great conversation. It was very, very nice to meet you, brother.
I'll come with you the facts next time.
I'll see you around next time, brother. God bless you, man. Very nice to meet you. See you, man. That's a great conversation. That kind of redeemed that Sudanese guy who was telling me not to look at Palestine or not to look at Sudan. He definitely redeemed it a bit. If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.